streaming. Okay. YouTube is up and running. Test. Yep. And Twitch is up and running. Test. Okay. There we go. We finally got it. I love it when the stream just doesn't multi-stream like it's supposed to. That's so cool. All right, let's close all these tabs. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a good day today. Let me pull up all my windows. So, last time we worked out the meme with how we're going to do attacks now by splitting it between attacking with strength, which was force, and attacking with dex, which was finesse. And how each weapon can do both, but they're going to have benefits for doing one over the other. I don't know. I'm debating. Here's my thought, okay? I was thinking about it, and it feels... I'm trying to figure out if I fully support each weapon attacking with both, or if I just do the normal, like, oh, you can only attack with one of them. Because the more I looked into it, it feels like swords don't actually get any advantages from being stronger. Like, you need the strength required to swing the weapon, whatever that minimum threshold is. But every time I look at anybody, like, talking about how swords are actually used, it's always, like, leverage games. And, like, you're always trying to hit specific points. And it's, like, it feels very much like what the dex is in this game. And then, like, for, like, and so, like, what do you get? You shouldn't get bonuses to swords for rolling strength. Like, if you want to do your epic sword clashes, you can. So maybe I allow it for those reasons, but those are basically mostly just mostly just like in like real life. It seems like most of the decks kind of, or most of the clashes between swords are just kind of like angles. It's like, how did I get you low enough to the sword hilt so that it's harder for you to actually reposition the sword? It's not ever like a, it's the angle or the leverage is what makes it difficult, not the pure test of strength smashing against each other. And then for like axes, I'm trying to figure out what the dex is, because if you don't use strength with an axe, you're doing no damage normally. So I'm at this weird point where it's like, trying to make sure that the dagger or that the dagger would have, because if you remember, in order to not use, if you don't use strength, then you use the durability stat for damage only. That's the only thing that does the damage. But that doesn't make sense now, because that would mean that the axe is going to have less durability than the dagger, and the sword's going to have about the same durability, to make sure that the axe isn't as good in dex mode. Or I make it so that, like, all weapons suck more in dex mode and then give them feats that make them better at strength or better at dex or something like that. I don't know. I feel like I have to fix... There's a tweak that needs to be done here. I think that the, I'm just trying to think of, when does a strength weapon roll dex? That's what I'm trying to come up with. Because if swords aren't strength weapons, then you're left with axes and warhammers. And warhammers are never looking for weak points. or like a mace. It's just trying to fucking cleave through the armor. Um, if you're aiming for the arm, or if you're aiming for the head, or if you're aiming for the body, more or less, you're basically set. You're not ever trying to really slip between the armor plates at a particular point in time. You're trying to smash the armor plates. Um, I guess you could be aiming for the lesser of the armor plates if they have like overlapping armor plates, then you pick the least of them. But I don't know. And then I don't know, and then you have the whole issue with and then axes don't do well against plate. They do well against soft armor. Um but it feels like the axes uh are still trying to just embed into soft armor. They're not trying to really bypass it. And for hard armor, an axe, I guess, could try to hit the like weak points, but they're gonna have a really difficult time doing it. So axes are just significantly worse against hard armor. There's the second hard armor is in the equation. The axe is in a lot worse of a situation. Um, so yeah, I'm just trying. I don't know what the. It feels like the more I think about it, maybe I was overshooting by letting each do both. Um, I also had the idea early on. I had this idea, and I think it might be too clunky, but it was the idea that you could roll you would roll once an attack hits, you would roll a strength check, adding in your durability of your weapon to see if it could cleave through the armor. So the idea was that like if a fucking demigod is rocking around with like a basic melee weapon, then they might still be able to just wholesale punch through your armor because they're actually that strong. Um, Irregardless of how the durability of the weapon actually is. Like, oh no, I don't. I have an iron dagger. Who cares? Fucking, you know, superhero punch you through the chest and leave a massive hole. But so I kind of feel like I want to support something along that idea, even if I don't make you roll the strength check. Um, yeah, okay. So I think. Mm, Let me relook at our formula. I think I put under weapons. Or no, was it in notes? I think it was in, maybe it was in notes. If I need to, I'll rewrite it. But it was force. Oh no, wait. I put him in universal full actions. Yeah, strike with force, right? So strike with force is perform an attack with a selected weapon profile against a stated target by rolling a strength check. If it succeeds, add the weapon's durability to the track and subtract the defender's armor at the declared location. Um, And then similarly, dex, roll a dex check, subtracting the weapon's size, and at that location's coverage. If its scores are greater than 0, your weapon deals damage equal to the weapon's durability at the declared location. So, I think the modified... I think you should still roll a strength check on attack. Hmm. Oh, man. Sorry, hold on one second. I gotta blow my nose. Okay. So... Okay. Let's do... I want to create options whenever you attack that have reasons for why you would do both. Do I? Okay, let's think that through. Each weapon should have a viable means of attacking. Duh. Some weapons are just trying to make contact. That's all they're trying to do. Can they hit you? Because if they can hit you, it will hurt. They don't care about, like, particular weak points. Mostly, like, as long as they hit, they're happy. And I feel like for those attacks, you should not have to care about accuracy. You're just, like, the amount of dexterity required to roll, or that you would need to, like, aim at a particular body part for a thing within melee range of you, that you're, like, it's so not even an issue. Like, if you don't have the dexterity to aim at that point, then you shouldn't be alive. So you're rolling strength, and then once it hits, well, you're rolling strength, but the point of rolling strength is just to build up enough momentum so that when you make point of contact, you smash into it. And typically, you're trying to roll the strength, and then you're trying to take advantage of whatever the weight is on the end of that strength, on that tool, to do the damage. So, whatever the force is... Oh, I realized I should pop out the chats. Hold on. Pop out chat. And go to the YouTube one. Pop out chat. Slide that up there. And put you here. Nope. All right, sorry about back to this. You roll force. Or you're rolling strength because whenever you want to hit contact, let me go back here. Okay. You're rolling strength so that whenever you hit contact, you're trying to break through. That's the entire point. That's all you're trying to do. Um, ugh. So if you swing with strength and someone tries to block you, they have to just push you off. Or they're dodging, but that's a separate question. When I go to block a strength attack, I am swinging my weapon or putting my weapon in the path of it to try to mitigate your chances of hitting making contact with me. Um, and I can partially mitigate that, and then you could still smash through, um, which happens. Um, um, and then if I'm blocking you, I think the check is going to be, uh, I don't think you should. I think the weapon's durability that's blocking should not incorporate your strength in checking to see if it breaks. So you take their durability of their weapon, you add their strength roll, and then you see if it's going to destroy your weapon. And if it does, then get fucked. Your weapon breaks. Um, and if it breaks, then your block should be ignored, I think. Um, but if it doesn't, then you mitigate it by strength. Um, fuck. The more I think about it, the less I feel like I should do crossover between the weapons. Because the idea was, oh, well, maybe if you want to hit a particular weak point, then the dex weapon, or you can roll, or the strength weapon can roll dex, and maybe if you want to really fucking sink the knife into it, then you do roll strength with dex. But the issue is that, like, I feel like strength isn't doing much extra. I mean, I guess it does, right? Like, physically strength does alter the trajectory of the knife through you. So I guess it does still make sense. I just need to make it so that they. Okay, here's what we'll do. Well, I was gonna say we just make it so there's like an obvious choice, right? Of like which one you would normally do, but however obvious it is, it needs to be not obvious enough such that it still has a use case doing the other thing, or else I should just take it out entirely. Um, okay. Oh God. Okay. Fuck, this is so dumb. I think I'm just being stupid. All right. Let's do. We'll keep it. I'm overthinking it. We're gonna keep it. We're just gonna weight them heavily into their roles, and then we'll provide some reasons for why you would do the opposite. Um, I think the biggest reason that strength users will attack with dex is against monsters. Um, because the weak points against most humans isn't gonna be small enough in order to have those. Like you're trying to get through gaps in armor. For most strength weapons, they're not gonna actually be able to or want to do that. But against a monster that has like a weak point that's a bit bigger, there might actually be a really valid reason to. Um, okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna perform an attack with a selected weapon profile against the stated target by rolling a strength check. Um, we're gonna reword this. I think it's gonna say, if it makes contact. I think that's how I'm gonna reword these. I guess I'll keep succeeds. Fuck it. Succeeds still does the same thing. If it succeeds, add the weapon's durability to the attack, and then subtract by the defender's armor at the declared location. I don't feel like I should be specifying that the armor is always reduced. I feel like that should just be an inherent base rule. Um, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of that, I think. Oh, I guess it does need to be specified because, or no, finesse will just say it ignores it because all attacks will count armor except for the very specific ones that ignore it. Um, so we'll go to universal reactions on thwart. When the focused combatant rolls to strike, roll a strength. No. First, check if uh, the attacker automatically check or fuck. I need to figure out how to word this so that this is consistent. There needs to be a thing about making contact versus versus dealing damage. So what this should say is this: if it makes contact, add the weapon's durability to the attack. Okay, and then when this says whenever the focus combatant rolls to strike, it makes contact with your weapon. Compare compare the total of the attacker to your weapon's durability. If it's double, your weapon is broken. Then roll a strength check and subtract their result, their roll, or subtract by the result. You also subtract by the weapon's durability. And then we roll a strength check and subtract by the result and the weapon's durability. I don't think we should subtract by the weapon's durability. I think it should just be by the result. If the opponent's total is greater than 0, oh, I need a better way to word this. Okay, when you swing with strength, you add your weapon's durability and compare it to the enemy's weapon's durability. If it's double it, it snaps it in half. It's the weapon's broken. Okay, that makes sense. So if it then hits you, or if it breaks the weapon, then you're fucked. Okay, here's what we do. Okay, here's how we solve this. Let me make make some notes down here. When any two weapons / armors make contact, there is a break checker. This is always true. So when any two weapons or armor make contact, there is a break check. That will always happen, just inherently. And so that way, we'll just say it makes contact with your weapon. Part of this is the aggressor rolls strength on the check. And then, so we do a point of break contact. That's fine. Then after that, because we've made contact, then you do the strength subtraction roll. And that's only going to get compared against their weapon strength. Would you ever put into consideration the durability of the weapon? I mean, So I think the reason we said yes in the past was that shields would be able to just have better durability, and that's where we would put the math for shields blocking weapons. But I think the issue with doing this is that it makes weapon v weapon really weird. Um, because we've already checked to see if the weapon breaks. So if the weapon's not breaking, then it should have um fuck. I feel like I just should go back to doing what I was doing originally, which was you always roll dex to hit, and then on point of contact you roll strength. And I feel like I should just stick with that in its entirety. Um because it's much simpler and it avoids so many of these issues. Um and then just make strength based weapons fucking painful to actually block. Partially because you just make the durability of the weapon suck shit. So it's like if you try to block a katana with a or an axe with a katana, the katana has a decent chance to just shatter, or dent or break in some way. Or if it's with a dagger or whatever, like your odds are not good for blocking these weapons. Um, okay. Yeah, fuck. I just want to say that it does this. All right, I'm gonna completely get rid of all the thing that we were just fucking working on last time. I hate this. I hate it. But fuck it. I think it's better. We're gonna rename this to Clash because that was the original wording and it works here. Then we're gonna go down to Clash is the full block. Never mind. Deflect works. Okay, then we're gonna go down to Strike and we're going to completely get rid of Force. Okay. State the target, the weapon profile, and the intended hit location. Perform an attack with the selected weapon profile. Okay, wait. So if we do this and we make everything attack with Dex, how do I check for armor? I think that when you make contact, you subtract the size from the roll, and if anything, you compare it where you. That's what it is. You compare the result of the attack by taking the size of the armor and subtracting the size of the weapon, and if you still beat it, then you can, or no, subtract the attack from by size, and then checking against the armor. And if there's whatever is not there, you bypass that much armor. That's what it is. and then we just make most of the attacks just too big to do that, and raise the armor to just be worse at or harder to break through or to bypass. We just make it an inherent rule, I think. So that's basically your crits. Is if you roll really, really well, then you can bypass certain armor. Okay, so let's see how this goes. We're gonna make a strike. We're gonna state the target, the weapon profile, and the intended hit location. That's correct. Then you're going to perform an attack with the selected weapon profile against the stated target by rolling a dexterity check. So, by rolling a dexterity check. If the attack scores, or no, if it makes contact. Oh, that's how we do this. Okay. Perform an attack and select a weapon profile against the stated target by rolling a dexterity check, and you're compared against the they then decide how they're going to react, if they do at all. Deflect. A combatant who is striking you within your peripheral. When the combatant rolls to strike, ignore. Roll a dexterity check at disadvantage, and subtract their roll by the result. No, what? This is. Do we do it just that way? Oh, that's how we word this. Okay. Let's recontextualize. All right. I like this idea better because it makes it so that you get hit less. And that's going to be, I think, a really, really big deal. I think what I'm going to do with this game is I think that getting hit is going to be pretty rare. Getting hit in piercing armor is even rarer and infinitely more scary. And I think I'm going to make just damage way more horrifying. I think I'm just gonna you could very easily die in 1 to 3 hits. And that's what makes monsters terrifying, is that they don't play by normal rules, and you have to do weird games and do a lot of prep to survive monsters. I think that's what we do here. Okay, so all right, here's what I'm thinking. All attacks roll dex. Fuck the strength rolls, because the strength roll doesn't make sense the more you think about it. All attacks roll dex, and then if you block it, and if you choose to make a block action, and you succeed, then what you do is you put your weapon in the path of their weapon, and so you are going to roll. You're rolling into that weapon. So basically, you've changed the point of contact from the hit location to your weapon, and then we check to see if the weapon breaks or whatever other stuff happens. If you don't do that, the attack will hit you. Um, so and then what we'll do is we just make it so that you have to block, or you have to block the size basically of the weapon. So the larger the weapon is, the easier it is to block. But then I think for strength based weaponry like axes and stuff, um, I think you make them less fragile, which makes blocking them more scary because they're more likely to break your weapon. And then I think that they also, I think I'm just gonna have to have some keyword that's like top heavy or something like that, which makes it very easy for, or very difficult to block them. Um, maybe if you, uh, maybe if whenever they do the check or the strength roll after, it can cleave through it. Maybe that's how you do it. I'm not sure um, how that exactly is going to work, but I think you should have something like that. So that way, if you do try to block an axe with your dagger, it could still fuck you up. Um, okay. Roll a dexterity check at disadvantage and subtract the roll by the result. No. So instead of subtracting the roll by the result, we instead say if the well, dexterity check at disadvantage if the weapon. I think you just need to hit the. They're rolling at dex subtracting size, because the bigger the weapon, the harder it is to hit the weak point. Do you do the same thing swinging back? If you roll dex, then you're just trying to hit their weapon, so the size of the weapon shouldn't matter. So should the size of your weapon. Um, oh man. I hate the fact that I'm changing this after we just got this set up last session, but it feels wrong the more I think about it, and I keep tossing and turning on this, and I feel like this is the better solution. And then we can just make weapons that don't take advantage of strength as much, like swords and knives. We just make their have some keyword that restricts the how much strength you actually get out of the equation. Um, okay, so we roll a dexterity check at disadvantage. Your goal is to hit the weapon. Okay, I'm getting too lost in the different weapons. Let's walk through some examples. We're going to have axe versus axe. We're going to have sword versus sword. We're going to have dagger versus dagger. And then we're going to have axe versus dagger, axe versus sword, and then dagger versus sword. A lot of these will have overlap, but that's fine. Axe into axe. If you're swinging with an axe and I have an axe, and by the way, for axe, we're gonna say like small, like the kind of one-handed, slightly larger than a hatchet axe, the like 3-footers, 4-footers. Um, I feel like the solution generally is that in those with those weapons, it's better to just dodge. Um, Maybe it's not the case. Maybe people do try to block axes. Could a battle axe block a swing from a sword? That's close. 2 reasons. Oh, I already watched this video. I don't remember watching this video. Okay. I'm just gonna times do this, because holy. Why is it that when I full screen, it goes to my other monitor? Okay. How would an axe versus axe work? I feel like I think because of how slow it's trying to he's making it with like the weight issue, I feel like it's going to be harder to block with these weapons. Um so top heavy is responsible for making it harder to block with, but also making it harder to block. Um so we could say uh roll with disadvantage when swinging with this weapon. Um or just roll with disadvantage when using this weapon. For dexterity, I should say. So it's harder to block with, and it's harder to hit. But um, you're basically never actually blocking the head of it. You're always blocking the. You're never blocking the head directly. You're trying to block somewhere lower. Which means that you have to change. What is the? How do we represent this? Now we're looping, because this is why I added the split between force and finesse. Was that if they're swinging with like full force, then you have to block with full force. Um, mm, so in one world, you roll strength versus dex, and they block with strength versus dex. And then we just have to really carefully balance how damage works on the back end, depending upon this. And on the flip side, we make everybody use dex to hit, and then we just have to carefully balance what it means to hit in regards to strength-based weaponry. Um, oh, wait, does this work? Okay, what if on top heavy weapons, disadvantage with dex checks, and then for hilt heavy, disadvantage with strength checks. And then what we do is, when you do a block, you have to hit the weapon, and then you have to resist the weapon. And so what we do is, for hitting the weapon, it's roll dex, right? You roll dex, you hit the weapon, clash. Cool. If you roll dex and you successfully hit that weapon, you're basically like gonna have a really, really difficult time actually getting hit. And then you would roll strength to see if like the weapon breaks or whatever. And if they overpower it, then they still make contact with they still make contact. The issue with making contact with the body through the weapon is that I feel like if you've mitigated it at least somewhat, then the likelihood that you're gonna get hit enough through your like armor to take damage is pretty unlikely. Um, so okay, one of the rules that we had, or I was thinking about doing, is every time there's a point of contact between a weapon and either weapon and armor, then you roll you look to see if you're damaging the weapon or armor. Um, what we can do is we can simply say if the attacker does enough of an overpower on the weapon such that it um, beats out some strength threshold, then it will uh, also make contact with the hit location using the remainder number. So you don't get to like roll strength again or anything, but you do get like basically over damage, which for most of the time the armor will block that anyways. But and then for dex focus weapons like swords, um, they're harder to block. So the axe actually just has a harder time hitting or blocking the weapon, which is what you'd want with a dex based weapon. But if they do manage to block it, then they're much easier to strength overpower it back to the wielder. Um, okay, that's how we do this. So point of contact, you're always rolling strength checks, and then you're rolling dex to see if you can hit the weapon. Um, I think this adds a little bit more math, but I think if I streamline conceptually what's happening here, I think this should be fine. So an axe versus axe, it's an awkward fucking block. Actually that makes sense because axe versus axe is an awkward block. You're either having to like catch their stem on your stem, or they're having to like try to like hit the axe head off, which is a whole mess, or you're just probably dodging, which is what most people I think would do in this situation, is just take the dodge there, because it's a little too risky. Sword v sword, you're always blocking, you're always clashing, and there's a minimal chance of getting hit with like any type of overlap damage. Uh, Dagger versus dagger, it's entirely a dodge game because trying to block a I think I'm just gonna make blocking take a penalty in general. So um dex or strength weapons will be doubly penalized for blocking. Um which is why they'll probably start running shields or like really good armor to kind of mitigate some of this. Um, um, I think another thing that's going to help is that I think I'm gonna make it so that if the weapon doesn't hit well enough to get past the armor, or if it gets like stuck on armor, or if it fails the strength check, whatever it is, if it's going to make it so that it doesn't properly, if it hits too much armor, then it'll count as making contact with armor, and then we can damage the weapons. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna give weapons and armor durability like I was probably expecting to do, but we'll just expand that mechanic a little bit more so that swords get blunted easier, and then clashing against weapons makes them get damaged easier. Um, and then just maybe have like a downtime action to fix that. Because I don't have to make you go back to the blacksmith every time. Because dulling should be relatively simple to do. So probably like a dull versus like a break. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It was just a dull condition, something. But I think that's a good. I think that's a good use case. Um, okay, so we hit the weapon. Um, sword versus sword, you're just blocking. Dagger versus dagger. Trying to hit the opponent's dagger should be really painfully difficult. I think you should incorporate size into blocking. I don't exactly know how I'm going to do it yet. Um, I mean, if your strength weapons are double penalized for blocking, then it's fine if we just if you add your size to it and you have to hit their size or something like that. I don't know how it would work exactly. But having that pinpoint number I think is okay. I think I like that. Um and then axe versus dagger. The dagger's never blocking that axe. Um Even if they do manage to get their arm in the way to actually prevent it from hitting them, um, good fucking luck. uh, I feel like you're just always going to take overlap damage in this case. Um, yeah, and so we just make it so that because of the strength penalties and because of the would it be size? It might just be size or durability or something. Blocking that's going to be difficult. Same with axe versus sword. It'll be similar but not as bad. And then dagger versus sword. Um, the sword will try to block the, or in close range, the sword can't block the dagger because it's too close, and you're not gonna be able to have an easy time fucking doing that. But versus and sword versus dagger, the dagger's just dodging, which I think makes sense. Or you're just relying on armor. But typically, if you're using a dagger, you're probably not wearing a ton of armor. Okay, let's do this math. Um, so I'm just not in a. I'm just so out of it today. I don't know why I'm so out of it. All right. If you attack with top heavy, top heavy is basically going to say, um, um, checks with dexterity checks with this weapon are reduced one tier. Which basically means if it would be normal, it's a disadvantage. If it would be a disadvantage, it's an inferiority. You're just dropping it down one check level. And then we'll say hilt heavy strength checks with this weapon are reduced one tier as well. That's how we do it. All right. And then roll a -1 tier dexterity check at disadvantage, or then we can remove at disadvantage. If the check succeed or versus Roll -1 tier dexterity check versus plus weapon size versus opponent's weapon size versus the attacker's weapon size. If it succeeds, it makes contact with your weapon instead of location. If your strength check is overrun, I don't know what the keyword will be. It's still the remainder makes contact with the targeted location, the original location. All right, I think that's how we word that, and then we just have to specify what the universal overrun mechanic is. I kind of like the idea that I kind of think making a universal overrun is actually a good idea, so that if you have like layers of armor, you're overrunning each layer, and then if you make contact with the body, then you've fully then that's when you stop. Okay. I have any Your strength check is overrun, the remainder makes contact with the original location. Yeah, so I think we need a universal overrun. We'll just say if the weapon is overrun. That's how it should be worded. Succeeds makes contact with your weapon instead of the location. Your weapon has overrun to previous to declared hit location. Or no, say original hit location. There we go. That way, because it's universal, that should make sense. All right. So when we go back to rules, we'll go back to combat. Striking. Let's reread striking. When a combatant locks in a strike action for their full action, they choose a weapon profile of one of their equipped weapons to strike with. The combatant begins to move their body in such a way to utilize their specific attack vector of the chosen weapon, and as such, invokes different properties of the weapon. When a strike is revealed during the full action phase, the defender may declare a reaction. The attacker and defender roll in their respective rolls, and if the attacker rolls higher than the defender, the attacker succeeds the attack by the difference in their rolls. After the roll, the attacker adds their bonuses based on the attack and subtracts by the defender's armor. If the value is positive, the weapon deals that much damage to the targeted location. No, actually, we'll just say trigger is revealed during the full action phase. The defender may do a reaction. The attacker and defender roll off on their respective rolls. After the defender's reaction is resolved. So let's make sure I understand this. So it reveals, hey, I'm going to attack you. He declares a deflect. After the defender's action is decided, the attacker rolls their check, and then the defender's reaction is rolled. If the attack makes contact, if the attack succeeds, it makes contact. And then we'll make a new section on making contact. Heading 2, Control-Shift-E, yep. Making contact. When a weapon makes contact with a weapon or armor, when a weapon makes contact with a weapon, both sides roll, both combatants roll a strength check. No, I think it's just the attacker. The attacker rolls a strength check and compares. If the result is double the attacked weapon, the weapon is damaged. You know what? Let's make it a triangle number. Let's say that if the difference between the checks is greater than the durability of the weapon currently, you reduce it by 1. So basically, if the weapon's durability is like 5, you have to beat 5, but then it will drop down to 4. So then you have to beat 4 to drop it into 3, and to beat 3, drop it into 2. And so it just gets easier and easier and easier to fuck up the weapon because it's getting more and more structurally damaged. If the result is double the attacked weapon, the weapon is damaged.
They attacked. If the result is double the attacked weapon's durability, the weapon is damaged, and adds the weapon's durability. Okay. When a weapon makes contact with a piece of armor, the attacker rolls a strength check and adds the weapon's durability. If the result is more than the attacked than the armor is damaged. Any excess damage over the durability is dealt to a... No, we'll reword it this way. If the hit weapon / armor has any overrun locations available, excess damage to the location or to the item in question is dealt to the overrun location. I think that's how we word this. So, by giving the weapon overrun original location, that makes the strength weapons overrun still hit their target if you don't push up against it well enough, which is going to make people dodge more. And then I think what I'll do for dodge is actually just a subtraction of how well you hit. So you'll still probably hit the location, it just won't be as strong of a hit. And so it's just kind of a reduction basically in how well you hit, instead of a full dodge. Combatant who is striking you within your peripheral, move 2 feet in any direction. Let's change this from 2 stamina, 1 stamina. I think also top heavy actions with this weapon cost 1 additional stamina. Move 2 feet in any direction. The move is ignored when calculating the range of the attack. When the focused combatant rolls to strike, roll an agility check and subtract the roll by the result. Yep. If the result of their roll is negative, there is no, it does not make contact. That's it. That's how we do it. All right, and now, if the armor users will have less agility, obviously, because they're walking around in full plate, but they also will prevent way more damage. So that's how this will shake out in the math. I also like the fact, I think, for this dodge, that it forces them to move, so that it's going to be a constant fucking
clusterfuck of all these people sliding all over the place and constantly repositioning and shifting weight and everything, which I think will be fun. Okay. And then let's go back to the combat rules. If a hit weapon armor has any overrun location available, excess damage to the item in question is dealt to the overrun location. And deal. The result is double the attack weapon's durability. The weapon is damaged. Excess damage to the item in question is dealt to the overrun location. Okay, do I only need durability for this, or do I have to create another weapon stat? I don't think I do, because, like, thinner weapons, like daggers, like swords, they're not going to have as much durability as, like, an axe. And I'm only breaking it on double, so the idea is that you're not going to break it too, or damage it too often, but you still have overlap that will let me specify this. When you make contact with the weapon, the attacker rolls a strength check and adds the weapon's durability. The attacker deals damage equal to the blocking weapon, or the contacted weapon. Deals damage to the contacted weapon equal to the result of a strength check and plus the weapon's durability. If the result is double the attacked weapon's durability, the weapon is damaged. Excess damage to the item over its durability is dealt to the hit location. We'll do a for example. For example, if a weapon, we'll say I don't know, if a sword it makes contact with a plate mail, with another sword, I'll do another sword. The attacker rolls their strength, in this case a d6, and adds it to their sword's durability. If the attacker's sword in this example, the attacker's sword is durability 8, while the defender's is durability 6. The attacker rolls a 3, so the defender, so the sword is not damaged and is dealt, but any overrun location is dealt 5 damage. I accidentally hit my fucking keyword. There we go. Dealt 5 damage, right? Because it's going to be 11 minus the 6 is 5. Okay. Actually, do I make it the... Also, if it deals double, it damages the thing? Okay. I think this is how we do it. And I think we do... Do we do the double? So I think the issue with doing the double is I don't want it to be, or maybe you do still do the double, because swords, uh, basically, let's go through the list. Swords are gonna do jack shit against most armor. Plate, it's fucking useless. Chain, it's fucking not great. Cloth, it's okay, but like thick cloth, and you can still negate a lot of a fucking weapon's attack for swords, especially. So it seems like unless you're hitting like no armor or like basic clothing, then you're kind of fucked in this regard. Um so swords aren't going to be very good against armor, just point blank. Um and that works out because I've reduced their durability. But I'm also not going to give them any real keywords to get through any set armor. Um, and then um, excuse me. Maces are going to be really good against plate, but they're going to be really bad against soft. Well, they'll be bad against thick armor because they have to get through more material. But as long as they're either dealing against like thin soft, so like chainmail doesn't do much for maces, but like plate will, and it breaks up plate really easily. So in general, uh, yeah, plate will be or maces will be good against breaking through armor. Um, and let me think if there's something. Okay, no, I think I know what I'm doing. All right. Okay. Um. Sorry, I'm so. I honestly probably should just stop streaming because I'm just gonna be sitting here fucking in silence working on rules. It's actually so bad. Holy fuck, this is gonna be the most boring stream. Oh my god. We've been going for how long? An hour and a half, but I probably said like less than 100 words. Um, fuck. Okay. Basically, I'm thinking. Um, Give me a second. I'm just gonna stand up. I'm gonna shake it off. I'm gonna refocus. I'm out of it. Hold on. Okay. Let's focus up a bit, shall we? So, I think I like this system. I think that it. I think the issue with doing the strength versus dex check is that it made two essentially different forms of an attack formula, which is more conceptual overhead. It's harder to balance. I'm already going to have an issue balancing weapons because I'm not good at balancing right now. In fact, balancing is a fucking bitch and a half, anyways. But I'm I do not have a ton of experience with it. So we can minimize weapon balance in the numbers sense, and we can focus more on the overall utility tool sense, and so then I can tell which parts of the system are way more breakable, especially in an early playtest. Because I forget the name of it. At one point, a game designer tried to come up with it's like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but instead of it being a hierarchy of needs, it's a like how much can you change the system by changing these things factor, and like numbers is like the last thing. It's the most marginal of changes, but the biggest are like cross game changes, then it's like system changes, and there's like like what actions are available. There's like a whole list of like these things are more warping to a potential balance situation. So if I reduce the number complexity on balancing weapons by focusing more on the utility weird shit that they can do, I feel like that's going to make it clear to me which parts of the game are more broken, which parts are less broken. So I think that's a bonus. I think another bonus is it's one formula, less to keep track of in your head. I think that's another. And I think the third thing is that because it now has the exact same formula as armor, I feel like it will help minimize another level of mechanical complexity. You just have to know what happens when you make contact with something. Is there any overrun? Okay, what happens when this happens? You just kind of run through it, and it's not okay. Well, I have to check to see if this, and then I have to check to see with that, and then da 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 da, etc. 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 Um, Let me add one specification for bypassing armor, which is simply going to be um, uh, if a if a weapon makes contact with a hit location, um, ignore all um ignore all armor at the location whose coverage rating is less than the attack minus the attacking weapon's size. I think it's something like that. So you take the attack, you subtract the size, and then anything greater than the coverage rating basically bypass the armor. I think that's what we do. Um, um, okay. And then do we, on the blocking, did we incorporate the weapon size? You roll -1 dex check plus your weapon size versus the attacker's weapon size. That's right. Okay. Um, Wait, that math doesn't work out. It should be a -1 tier dex check minus the attacker's weapon size. The smaller the thing, the harder it should be to hit. So you should be rolling. Oh, should the size weapon of the weapon size number be inverted to be a large number? The smaller the weapon is, the larger this number, and we reword sizing to like pinpointness or like accuracy or something. Some other wording like that, because that does make some of the math easier. So now instead of doing whenever you would go, well, whenever you go attacking armor, conceptually it makes sense to see how well you hit, subtract the size of the weapon, and then see if it beats the coverage rating. That makes sense to me. Um, I guess if you reworded it, it would be how well you hit, or the size of the weapon minus how well you hit, and then see if you beat like a small number. So the smaller the weapon, the less well you have to hit to bypass the armor. That makes sense to me. So I guess you can convert it that way. And then, or no, it was supposed to be the smaller the weapon, the bigger the number. So it would have to be the size of the weapon plus how well you hit beats the number, and then you just make the coverage rating number bigger. That's what it'd be. And then when comparing size of weapons, it would have to be your dex check plus your weapon size versus the attacker's weapon size, because the smaller it is, the bigger the number. So the bigger your weapon is, the less useful it is here, which means you would add to it, and then you try to get the bigger number. I don't hate this. I think this works. Um, so I need to reword size to be something
I think accuracy makes sense. So you take the accuracy of the weapon and you add how well you hit. And if it beats out the coverage rating, then you've found the weak point. That conceptually makes sense. And then similarly, when trying to block a weapon, you have to take your dex roll plus the accuracy of your weapon versus the accuracy of that weapon. And that also makes sense. Because you're trying to hit their attack. Okay. This rebranding makes sense. Smaller weapon profile must be more accurate. Okay, that's good. All right, I think we've got it. So, let's have on our range, we're going to have 10 be pinpoint fucking accurate. I mean, like, bug biting you level accurate. Actually, do we even do that? Do we even count bugs into this scale? Maybe bugs just say, fuck your accuracy. Or do we just give them an ungodly level of accuracy that it doesn't even... You're like, what the fuck? Okay. Yeah, so actually, we'll do it this way. We'll say 10 is a dagger. And then we'll say, like, 0 is a fucking building thrown on top of you. Okay, so if we do this, dagger swing is going to be a 9. Thrust is going to be a 10. Completely makes sense. Sword thrust will be a 9. Zweihander thrust will be a 9. Rapier swing will be an 8. 7. It's how hard it is. It's if you smash this against something. Against armor, a rapier swing's fucking useless. And it's going to be much more easy to block. Actually, this should be closer to like a 5. And then a Zweihander swing will be closer to like a 4. Maybe make this like a 7 or a 6. We'll make this a 7. We'll make this a 6. And then Pommel's fairly accurate. We'll give it like a 6 as well. We give it a 7. Because it's like a small... Fuck. Hold on. I need to figure out how I'm going to think this through. The thrusting being 9 and 10 makes sense. You're trying to hit a very narrow target. Cool. Or you're using a very narrow thing to hit a target. That makes sense to me. Then for swinging, you have the whole blade, basically, is what we're tracking. So on swords, that's going to be relatively small. Oh, you know what we could do? For the reactions, instead of it doing on flip, we can do it on declaration. The active combatant declares they're locked in, declares they're locked in action. So that what I'm trying to say is that, like,
instead of revealing I did a strike against your arm, you just say I'm doing a strike, and then
we'll go back to these. We'll say that declares the name of their locked in action. Then abilities on the declaration occur. Then the combatant checks if they're no, this should happen earlier. This should say the attacker or the combatant's action must be legal. I think we would check that here. Because they're taking an action, they're now the active combatant. They may only do so if their action is legal. Okay. Put that wording in there. The active combatant declares the name of their locked-in action. Abilities on a declaration occur. Any other relevant combatants may perform their reactions. Okay, so yeah, now you do the reaction, or may... any other relevant combatants may decide their reactions. The combatant performs the revealed action with the as reactions resolve, because they're going to happen simultaneously. Okay. And so this way, what we can do is we can say on reaction, we could do like a pick the location you think they're going to hit, and if you do, you get a bonus. Because there's a mind game aspect of this that should be reincorporated. After the incredible rules to strike, roll -1 to your dex check versus the attack weapon sides. This succeeds, it makes contact with your weapon instead of the location. On declaration, declare the location you expect the strike to hit. If you were correct on the if you were correct about if your location, your predicted location is the correct one, gain +1 tier to the roll. There. Now we can play some mind games with it. Okay. We go back to the rules. Okay, so yep, that's that. Oh, let's finish the sizing.
Okay, so I think Why did we change that in the middle of this? We changed that in the middle of this. Oh, because I was thinking about how the size of your weapon, like a blade, is very long, and so it's much easier to block. But there are like plenty of moves in like traditional sword understanding stuff where you'll try to block with one direction and they'll swing with the other for a variety of reasons. So I wanted to reincorporate that back into the block idea so that there was um a valid reason to do this, I think. Um um okay. And then okay, so I think point being 9 makes sense. Um I honestly might make the rapier's point a 10 because that's kind of their whole bit. And then I feel like I should make sword blades like a 6. And then you should be like a 5. And then pommel can be a 7. That sounds fine. So 9 is a very accurate bit. And then we make hammers. I think we set them at like for this warhammer, it's like the kind of the same idea of that one-handed axe he was holding. Let's start with the axe. We'll make the axe like a 7. 7. Um, um, make that an 8. Or I guess they should be about the same thing because you're just blocking the staff or like the handle part. But I think a 7 for a one-handed axe like he had. I think a 7 makes sense. Honestly, might up it. No, I don't want to up it too high. Let's see, if 6 is a rapier, then I think this should be a 7. I think that's correct. And then for Warhammer, the flat part, we make this like a fucking 5. And then no, let's drop the numbers more. Let's make a swing for like a Zweihander like a 3. We'll make a rapier like a 4. We'll make an axe a 5. Make you a 6, because now we can split the numbers better. Like a Warhammer is going to be closer to like a 2, because you're just crushing on top of it. And then we'll make like a spiked head, like a
Uh, Six? Is that too high? That feels too high. I mean, I guess for a hammer, for a one-handed hammer, you should probably keep these actually pretty higher up. So maybe it's 5, maybe it's 4 and 6. I don't hate that. For 8% honestly, you need to be 3 and 2. Because it's so fucking easy to block a sword swing for the most part. I should specify. Like, if you're doing, compared to trying to block the head of an axe or blocking the head of a, like, I feel like these numbers should be less meaningful. Or fuck, it can't be this low because the math wise, you're rolling a dex check and you're adding the accuracy of your weapon to beat the accuracy of that weapon. Oh, that's gonna be a problem. Yeah, wait, hold on. Maybe these numbers do have to be tighter together. Because blocking a Zweihander with a, by only needing a 2 is way too low. Oh, fuck. And how does that work with scaling dice? Oh, fuck. Hold on. Fuck. Um, Maybe I changed the formula for blocking a weapon because you're just trying to hit the size, and maybe that's an issue. Maybe you should be trying to hit. Maybe it's you roll dex plus your weapon size, and you try to hit their weapon, uh, or fuck, do we reinvert the numbers? We go back down from accuracy to small size, and so then it's my weapon plus its size trying to block, trying to get to your weapon. Or no, because the smaller the weapon, the harder it should be to hit. Um, so maybe we do stay with accuracy. If it's my dex roll plus my weapon size minus your, or sorry, accuracy. My weapon plus its accuracy minus your weapon's accuracy. And I have to get up to your OSL. I think that's what we do. Or up to your success level. So the difference, um, and then you reduce the hit by the difference. No, because I want you to be able to fully miss the block.
Or I guess we could just do it by subtraction, and so you're just constantly blocking to um, mitigate your hits, and then your feats and stuff allow you to get better with this. Yeah, maybe we just do subtraction, or we just do constant. It's a mitigation game, and so you're just constantly trying to get that little bit of advantage to get your hit in better. I think the issue I'm seeing with the potential pitfalls with this number system is that um, because of the scaling of how it works with getting and bigger dice numbers, like going from D4 to D6 to D8, I don't think I can do hard line like fail pass options. I feel like it should always be some type of mitigation value of like comparing two numbers and taking the difference between them, because otherwise if you get a high enough stat you just are going to start causing problems, especially because late game, when you start getting to the point where you're scaling like 4 plus d8, 6 plus d6, 8 plus d4, that's going to become a problem really quickly. um so yeah, I think that's how that's going to work. I need to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Where were we at? I think we were doing sizing. That's right. We were talking about subtracting. I think it's, yeah, do I make... If they... So what I've currently had is if the... Um, they just subtract your roll by that number. And then if it's greater than 0, you hit. Do I make it go the opposite, where, like, if you beat their number, then, like, you get bonuses? I don't really feel like that should be the case. I feel like the number system doesn't support it. Hmm. Yeah, let's just do, you always subtract their number, and then if your number is still greater than 0, then you hit. Um, because you could narrativize it as like, you go to swing, they go to block your swing. You're like angling your arm to hit while still dodging their block. So like in some regards, you're going to be mitigated. I don't know. We'll see how the math works out. I think I'm just gonna do it as subtraction. Let's make sure the reaction works this way. Uh, I do I like. I do kind of like having um huh, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Hmm. No, I think we'll just say after the focus combat rolls a strike, roll a -1 tier dex check. Um, subtract. Do I just make it so that if it's full block, then you mitigate? No, I like the idea of doing the full clash. I think the full clash is more interesting to balance, at least. I just have to make it so that you have to aim for versus the attacker's result. Roll a -1 dex check.
versus the attacker's result. With a if their weapon's smaller, it's better for them. Plus their weapon size minus yours. Yeah, I think that's what we do. Or no, we should do plus your weapon size minus theirs. Your weapon accuracy actually is what it is. Minus theirs. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. If it succeeds, which is greater than 0. It makes contact with your weapon to the original location. Your weapon has overrun dash original location. Yeah, and then they can still strength beat you out. It's just that you've made contact. Okay, and let's look at this again. So with that in mind, let's say they both have d6s, I'm rolling, let's do the any dice, okay? In this example, you would be rolling d6 minus the lowest one of 2d6 and then we would want to know plus, let's do in this case a really bad attack for you. So let's say a stabbing rapier versus a swinging Zweihänder. So thrusting is plus 10, or no, it would be lowest one of 2d6. Plus, in this case, would be 10, or plus 2 minus 10, minus 8, minus d6 greater than 0. No, it can't be 8. 8 is way too fucking strong. Zweihander would have to be like 4 or something. It's just gonna be 0. Yeah, this is no. Fuck me. The scale here is too extreme. Maybe if it's I either decrease the numbers significantly man, what am I missing? What's an easy way to do this? We could flatten the numbers. We could just make it a check of if greater than, like, oh, if it's greater than, then you get +1 to your dice tier or -1 to your dice tier or something like that. Um, and then if it's like double the difference, then get fucked. See, it only makes sense for a Zweihander. They're being attacked to just counter strike. And just like swing at the arm. But I guess if you're already in dagger range, they're not even really trying to block you with a Zweihander anymore. They're just trying to like clash with you. I'm getting too into the weeds. I need to abstract this away. Um what's the So I still want the accuracy versus armor. I think being able to bypass certain armor is really important. Um so I like that. I feel like for blocking, if your accuracy is worse. No, this doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be using accuracy for this. You should be using size, which is what we were doing with accuracy, but it's not the same. Like if I have a dagger has a very good accuracy against armor, but it's going to be dog shit at blocking. It's just not going to do what you want it to. Um why is the box up there? What the fuck? It's good. That was a bug. Okay. Do I care about the accuracy between weapons when blocking? I mean, blocking a dagger should be hard. So I should have a rule for this. Okay. I think what we do is I almost just want to say fuck the accuracy for weapons and just make it just entirely about hand-eye coordination. And then I just give shields, I guess, a trait to reduce the chances of getting hit while blocking with them. I should just reword makes contact as hits. I don't know why I'm convoluting that. Their attack misses. It hits. The attacker rolls her check and the defender's reaction is rolled. All actions could have a reaction, so I don't know why I'm writing this here. We get rid of this. When a weapon hits another weapon, the attacker deals damage to the hit weapon equal to the result of the strength check. When a weapon, yeah, I don't know why I'm convoluting this so much, hits armor, okay. Okay. All right, much better. And then let's do yeah, now we've made both of them like proactive on the part of the reactor, which I like. And After the focus combatant rolls the strike, roll -1 tier dex check plus your weapons accuracy minus theirs. Okay, yeah, I think we just get rid of this, and we're just gonna see how the math shakes out. All right, we'll get rid of the -6 here. Calculate. You have a 25% chance to hit if you're going D6 versus D6. Any two weapons, D6 with their index, you swing, they block, quarter chance. It's not great odds. I just realized I should probably do the subtraction on the other side, because I just realized that if it's all or nothing here, and I don't want the all or nothing. I think focusing matter rolls agility check versus their roll, or rolling agility check and subtract the result from their roll. If their roll is less than 0, it misses. There. And then I think we do, if their roll is less than 0, it hits your weapon instead of the original location. Roll a -1 dex check, and subtract the result from their roll. If your predicted location is the correct one, gain +1 tier to this roll. If it hits, if their roll is less than 0, it hits your weapon instead of the original location. Your weapon has the overrun minus original location, or overrun dash original location. Yeah, that's how we do this. So you can either mitigate the to hit by like partially blocking, basically, or you can full block it and then it hits the weapon, but it can still be strength overrun into your body. So strength heavy weapons still do things, basically. Okay, I think that's what we do. So what needs to change for this? Accuracy is now entirely, or it has no reset up back into deflect currently, which might be a problem. I'm gonna make a note. Let me clear our notepad. Double checking attack formula options. We've been doing that this entire time. We've been doing armor gaps. We're doing weapon designs. We're gonna rework the weapon traits after this. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. That's all garbage now. This is all garbage. What is the strength versus whatever? Nope, that's garbage. I like to do, you can declare strength. Nope. Nope. We'll get rid of all this. Get rid of all that. Okay. All we're gonna say up here at the top is return maybe adding weapon accuracy into the block formula. Okay, and then we're gonna go back into here and let's recheck all of our actions. Make sure that they're all up to date with our current terminology and math. Brace. So this is you're just putting your arms in front of your face and trying not to get fucked as much. When an attack made by the locked combatant hits you, oh, that's right, this is a trap. That's right. So whenever an attack, you flip. Did we have when an attack made by the locked combatant is declared
against you. Flip. Roll the oppose. Roll a Constitution. What this should now say is, roll a Constitution roll and subtract it from their result. How do we word this exactly? I have to convert after the focus combatant rolls to strike. If the stated attack profile and group are identical to the finalized attack, the roll gains advantage. So this should now say, lock in a combatant, attack profile, or weapon profile, which is what it says now, and hit location. No, I don't really want to do hit location for bracing. We'll just do a combatant and weapon profile. And I feel like for bracing, is always putting your arms up. So maybe we just change this to rolling your arms will hit the point first before it hits you. You just throwing your arms up basically. Because what other bracing are you doing? I mean, you're not ever. I guess you could brace your legs, but I don't really see you bracing your legs to, like, mitigate damage. I feel like it's always the opposite. And honestly, Constitution doesn't affect health in this system, so there's not really a reason to roll a con roll either. I feel like this doesn't work anymore. I guess you could do like a throw your hands up in front of your face, but I might as well just make a universal block reaction where you can block with your arm, and then it does the exact same thing as this. So no, I don't think we'd keep brace anymore. I think we get rid of brace. Clash. Clash is you focus the stated combatant, and you will lock in the combatant, the weapon, the attack group. No, that's gone. Weapon profile. Say the combatant, the weapon profile. The attacking, the predicted weapon profile. And predicted hit location. When an attack made by the locked combatant hits you, just by the stated combatant hits you, roll an opposed strength roll with the locked in weapon profile. If you win, the attack is prevented. No. This should be oh crap, hold on, I might have to go. Yeah, I gotta go. Shit, I forgot I have something scheduled. All right, I will